My brother told me I should walk away from my inheritance since I didn't have a family anyway. So, I signed the papers and left without a fight. But months later, when he realized what I'd done next, he came crawling back, desperate for me to undo it. The moment Matt sat me down at the dining table, I felt a knot tighten in my gut. The house still carried traces of our parents, my mother's favorite vanilla candle, the worn leather of my father's old chair. Their absence was fresh, just a few weeks old, yet here we were, already picking apart their legacy. Matt had always been the one who knew how to twist words to get what he wanted. As kids, I'd watched him talk his way out of trouble with teachers, spinning excuses so smooth they'd actually believe he forgot his homework because of a made-up family emergency. He was just as skilled at home, shifting blame onto me when we broke the kitchen window, making sure I took the fall while he walked away clean. So, when he leaned forward with that familiar glint in his eyes, I knew exactly what was coming. "Look," he started, voice soft, like he actually gave a damn. "We both know Mom and Dad would have wanted me to handle things." I frowned. Handle things? He let out a dramatic sigh, rubbing his temples like this whole situation was just so difficult for him. "You're not married. No kids. No real responsibilities like I have." He motioned toward the framed photos lining the wall, his wife, his 2 kids, the perfect little family. "I need to make sure they're taken care of. And, honestly, you don't need the money like I do." His next words landed like a slap. "It's not like you have a family to support." I just stared at him, waiting for the punchline. Waiting for him to crack a grin, say he was just messing with me. But he didn't. He meant every word. "You want me to sign over my share?" My voice was unsettlingly calm. Matt leaned back, spreading his hands as if what he was asking for was the most reasonable thing in the world. "It's the right thing to do, man. You don't have a family anyway." Something inside me fractured. For years, I had watched Matt take attention, favors, second chances, while I worked my way through life without ever asking for anything. He had been the one needing help. I had been the one making it on my own. And now, here he was, acting like I didn't even count. I glanced down at the stack of legal papers he had waiting for me, all neatly prepared. Without a word, I picked up the pen and signed. No arguments. No hesitation. I didn't even pretend to think about it. I just signed my name, slid the papers back across the table, and got to my feet. Matt blinked. "Wait, just like that?" I gave him a smile, empty and cold. "Just like that." Then I turned and walked out. He thought he'd won. He had no idea what was coming. I stepped outside into a steady drizzle, the kind of rain that seeps into your clothes before you even notice. I barely felt it. My mind was stuck on Matt's words. "You don't have a family anyway." Like my life, my accomplishments, my choices meant nothing just because I didn't have a wife and kids. Like I was nothing. I sat in my car for a long time, watching raindrops race down the windshield. The deal was done. The inheritance was his. Nothing tied me to that house anymore, or to Matt, or even to the past. And honestly, that was fine by me. I had spent my entire life being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who never needed anything. Matt had always been the reckless one, the screw-up who got endless second chances. I had been his safety net. Not anymore. By the time I pulled out of the driveway, I already knew what my next move would be. Matt assumed I was walking away empty-handed. What he didn't realize was that I had been quietly building my own future for years. I wasn't wealthy, not yet. But I had been smart. I had saved, invested, made steady moves while he blew through every dollar that crossed his hands. I wasn't sinking. I was about to rise. And by the time Matt figured that out, it would be far too late. I didn't waste a single second feeling sorry for myself. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Matt could have the house, the savings, whatever scraps he thought would make him rich. I was going to build something bigger, something of my own. I had always been good with money. While Matt burned through cash, I had been investing small, steady, smart moves. Index funds, real estate, a few promising startups. I wasn't a millionaire, but I had enough to take action. So I did. I took the cash I had left and poured it into an idea I had been sitting on for months, a consulting firm. Small at first, just me and a handful of independent contractors. I had the experience. The contacts. The drive. And within weeks, it started to take off. I worked harder than I ever had before, taking every opportunity that came my way. Long days, longer nights, I didn't care. I was free. Free from Matt. Free from my parents' expectations. Free from a family that had never really seen me. But the best part? I wasn't doing this alone. For the first time in my life, I surrounded myself with people who actually cared. Old friends I hadn't heard from in years reached out when they heard I had left. Business mentors offered guidance. Even a few new faces turned into real, solid friendships. And just like that, I started building something that was mine. Something Matt could never take from me. I wasn't alone. Not really. Matt thought that by taking my inheritance, he'd leave me with nothing. But I had something else in mind. In just a few months, I built something that outstripped what he had stolen from me. And just when everything was falling into place, the phone rang. Matt. I ignored it at first, letting it go to voicemail. But then the calls kept coming. Again and again. By the time I hit the fifth missed call, I finally answered. His voice was frantic. Desperate. I need your help. I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile curling on my lips. Oh, this was going to be good. I let the silence stretch, letting him stew for a moment before I spoke. I need your help, he said again, his usual confidence replaced with strained panic. I kept my tone steady, funny. Last time we talked, you told me I didn't have a family. So why are you calling me now? There was a long pause. I could practically hear him trying to hold it together on the other end. Look, he said, taking a deep breath, things didn't go the way I planned. I almost laughed. Of course, they didn't. Instead, I played dumb. What do you mean? Matt hesitated. For the first time in my life, he sounded unsure. The money, it's gone. My interest peaked, I leaned in, fully invested now. Gone? Gone, he replied, his voice cracking. I made some bad investments. Thought I could flip it into something bigger, but the market turned, and... His breath hitched. It's all gone. Every last cent. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the satisfaction settle in. Matt, the guy who gloated over taking what was mine, was now drowning in his own mess. But he wasn't done yet. And the house? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Another pause. I could almost feel his shame coming through the phone. I took out a loan against it. It didn't work out. I'm about to lose it. That was it. I knew then that Matt wasn't just desperate, he was ruined. He had blown through everything, our parents' savings, the house, even all the assets he'd thought made him untouchable. And now, with nothing left, he was crawling back to me. For a second, I thought about all the times I had bailed him out before, the times I had cleaned up his messes. But not this time. This time, he was going to learn what it felt like to stand on his own. I took a deep breath and leaned back in my chair. That's rough, Matt. Please, he pleaded, his voice shaking, I just need a loan. Something to keep the house. You've always been good with money. You can help me, right? I thought about it for a moment. How easy it would be to say yes. Then, I thought about his last words to me. You don't have a family anyway. I let the silence stretch out just long enough for him to feel it. Then, coldly, I responded, you have no family anyway. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. What? You said it yourself, I continued, tightening my grip on the phone. I don't have a family. So why would I help you? The silence was deafening. Without another word, I hung up. Matt had made his choices. Now, he had to live with them. Hanging up on Matt should have felt like closure. But I knew better. People like him, entitled and desperate, never give up that easily. And sure enough, the next morning, my phone was flooded with messages. Missed calls. A frantic voicemail from Matt. Look, man, I get it. I messed up, but I need you. Please just hear me out. Delete. Then a text from his wife, Jennifer, I don't know what happened between you two, but Matt's in a really bad place. Please call him. Ignore. Finally, a text from an unknown number, but I knew exactly who it was. Mom, family forgives, honey. Please don't turn your back on your brother. I stared at the message for a long moment, then let out a bitter laugh. Family forgives? Where was that sentiment when Matt manipulated me into signing away my inheritance? Where was it when he told me I didn't deserve anything because I didn't have a family? Funny how people only seem to remember family when they need something. I put my phone down and went about my day. My business was thriving. New clients, new deals, a circle of people who actually valued me. My time and energy went into things that mattered. Matt's problems? Not my concern. Or at least, that's what I thought. Until, later that afternoon, I walked into my office and found him sitting in my lobby. He looked like hell. His suit, once pristine, was wrinkled, his hair a mess, and the cocky confidence he used to wear like armor was nowhere to be found. The receptionist looked at me, unsure. He, wouldn't leave. I sighed. It's fine. I walked over, and Matt shot to his feet, like he was afraid I'd leave before he could say anything. Just 5 minutes, he blurted. That's all I'm asking. I crossed my arms, staring at him. Go. He exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. Look, I know I don't deserve anything from you. I screwed up, okay? I was selfish. I was wrong. But I have nothing left, man. The house is gone. The money's gone. Jennifer, she took the kids and left. His voice cracked. I have nowhere to go. I felt nothing. No sympathy. No anger. Just nothing. You made your choices, Matt. His eyes flickered with desperation. I know. And I was wrong. But please, just give me one chance. A job, a loan, anything. I took a slow breath, then leaned in, just enough for only him to hear. This is the part where I say, you should have thought about that before you betrayed me. His mouth opened slightly, but I cut him off. But the truth is, Matt, I don't care anymore. I stepped back, nodding toward the door. Now get out. He stood there for a moment, waiting for me to change my mind. But I didn't. After a long pause, he lowered his head and walked away. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly free. When Matt walked out of my office, something inside me shifted. For years, I'd lived under the weight of my family's expectations. The unspoken rule that I'd always be the one to sacrifice, to fix the messes, to pick up the pieces. I'd played the role of the responsible one while Matt lived recklessly, knowing someone would always be there to catch him. Not this time. This time, he was on his own. And I had never felt lighter. That night, I went out with some real friends, the kind who had been there long before money or success came into the picture. We celebrated a big deal I had just landed, a contract that would take my business to a whole new level. As we laughed, drinking under the stars at a rooftop bar, I took a moment to just be. To enjoy what I'd built, guilt-free. You're different these days, my friend Alex said, clinking his beer against mine. Less stressed. More you. I thought about it for a moment. Maybe he was right. For the first time in my life, I was living for myself. No more chasing approval. No more being the safety net for people who only saw me as a convenience. I had built something real, something that was mine. And I wasn't about to give any of it away. As the night wore on, my phone buzzed again. Another text from my mom. Matt's in a motel. He has nothing. I don't know what to do. I stared at the message for a long time. Once, I would have felt guilty. Wondered if I was being too harsh. If I should at least help him get back on his feet. But not anymore. Matt had made his bed. Now, he had to lie in it. I slid my phone back into my pocket, turned to my friends, and let the past stay where it belonged. Behind me. I had a future to focus on. And Matt? Well, he had his consequences. A week passed. I thought I was done. Then, one night, just as I was locking up my office, I stepped outside and saw Matt standing there waiting for me. He looked even worse than I remembered. His eyes were empty, his face unshaven, and the flashy lifestyle he used to flaunt had vanished, leaving him with nothing but faded memories. Please, he whispered, barely audible. Just hear me out. I sighed, already feeling drained. Matt. I'll do anything, he interrupted, his voice desperate. I'll work for you. I'll pay back every cent I took. Just, please, man. I've got nowhere else to go. I stared at him, trying to find a trace of the brother I used to know. But all I saw was a man drowning in the mess he'd made of his own life. "You don't need me, Matt," I said finally. "You need to fix yourself." His face crumpled, his whole posture sagging under the weight of what he knew was true. "I don't know how," he whispered. I exhaled, shaking my head. "Then you better figure it out." And with that, I walked away, this time for good. He didn't follow me. I could feel his eyes on me, but I didn't look back. His shoulders slumped, defeated, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty about it. I'd spent years believing that because we were family, I owed him something, believing that I had to forgive, help, fix him. But family wasn't just about blood. It was about respect. It was about loyalty. And Matt had never given me either. Now, he was facing the price of that betrayal. A few days later, I heard from some mutual friends that Matt had packed up and left town. He was supposedly going to start over, but I didn't ask where. I didn't reach out. Whatever happened to him from that point on wasn't my problem. Meanwhile, my life kept moving forward. My business kept growing, my investments were thriving, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was dragging the past behind me. One night, as I sat in my apartment, looking at the city skyline, I couldn't help but think about what could have been. If Matt had only treated me like an equal. If he had valued me for who I was, not just what I could give him. He could have had everything. But now? He had nothing. And that was entirely on him. Months went by, and Matt slowly faded into the background, like a forgotten chapter of my life. At first, I wondered if he'd try to contact me again, pull some last-ditch attempt to manipulate me. But he didn't. Maybe he finally understood that I wouldn't save him this time. Maybe he found someone else to latch onto. But honestly? I didn't care. I was finally free. Without the weight of family expectations holding me down, I thrived. My business exploded in ways I never imagined, pulling in clients I thought were unreachable. The investments I had made over the years were now paying off, and the money kept coming in. The best part? I had built all of it myself. No handouts, no inheritance. Just hard work, intelligence, and persistence. One evening, I got a call from an old family friend, someone who had known my parents. He'd heard about Matt's downfall and was checking in on me. "I heard what happened," he said, sounding unsure. "Must be hard, seeing your brother lose everything." I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the city I had made my own. "No," I replied, my voice steady. "What's hard is realizing it took me this long to walk away." There was a long pause on the other end of the line before I heard a soft chuckle. "You did the right thing, son. Some people just don't deserve a second chance." I didn't need him to tell me that. I knew it already. Because for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I was meant to be. And I had no regrets. A year later, Matt had become nothing more than a memory and echo of the past. I never saw him again. From what little I gathered from old acquaintances, he had burned through every bridge he had left. Jennifer never took him back. His kids barely spoke to him. He bounced from job to job, city to city, always searching for the next shortcut. But there were no shortcuts left for him. And that's where our paths diverged. While he kept looking for the easy way, I kept building. My business had become something I was genuinely proud of, something that gave me purpose, not just profit. I surrounded myself with people I could trust, people who worked hard and deserved success. I had friends who celebrated my wins, without jealousy or hidden agendas. For the first time in my life, I was truly, deeply happy. One day, I found myself driving near the old neighborhood where Matt and I had grown up. I hadn't meant to go there. It was just a detour, a familiar route I hadn't taken in years. But as I passed the house, something inside me froze. It was run down now. The paint was peeling, the yard was overgrown, and the windows were fogged with dust. It didn't look anything like the place where we had once lived, where we'd grown up under the same roof but in two completely different worlds. I sat there for a while, just staring at it. I thought about my parents, how they always made excuses for Matt, how they favored him, and how they taught him that he could take and take without consequence. And I thought about the time Matt had told me I didn't deserve anything. "You don't have a family anyway," he'd said. That was when I had truly let go of the past. But this? This was the moment I moved on for good. I didn't hate him. I didn't wish him any harm. I just didn't care anymore. Matt had made his choices. And I had made mine. At the end of the day, life had given each of us exactly what we had earned. I glanced at the house one last time, shifted the car into gear, and drove away. This time, I didn't look back. Because my future? It was ahead of me. And for the first time, I knew it was mine and mine alone.